Good morning and welcome to Cooley Outdoors. I am your host, Brandon Scott. With me one more time is Sabrina. This is our last day out at the coast for our anniversary. We're going to be driving home back to Seattle after this, but today we're going to take advantage of the low tides being later in the day and we're going to go explore some of the beaches around Claylock. So we're starting off at Ruby Beach and then we'll probably do some of the numbered beaches, Beach 4, Beach 3, and then we'll probably end the day wandering around on the sandy beach of Claylock before going home. Thank you for joining us. All right, for both of today's adventures, Ruby Beach and Beach 4, there is no real trail or real long distance along the beach to hike, so that doesn't make it into either of these books. So I'll sum them up both shortly. Ruby Beach and Beach 4 are the two furthest north beaches along the 15-mile stretch of Highway 101 that drives right along the ocean, and the highlight of this section is Claylock, which is the area we stay at when we're out there for the winter. Ruby Beach is so called because of the creek that dumps in on the beach right where the little trail from the parking lot comes in is reportedly full of garnets, which of course look like rubies, hence the name. Ruby Beach, you can go north if you can cross the creek towards, what's the island called? There's an island right there. There's a couple of smaller sea stacks that can be reached at even moderate tides. So you can go north and walk along the beach if you can make it across the creek, or you can go south and dodge a couple of minor headlands and just walk sandy, partially gravelly beaches for miles and miles. But eventually you'll reach Beach 4, which, as you'll see, has a really cool little quirky beach entrance from the trail onto the beach. And again, you can go north from Beach 4 around a headland that's only passable during decently low tides. And if you go north from Beach 4 and south from Ruby Beach, eventually you'll be walking the same stretch of beach. They're only a couple of miles apart, so they're the two furthest north beaches along the stretch. And then if you go south on Beach 4, eventually you'll reach another. If you go north on Beach 4 a little ways, you'll get to some rocks that you have to only be able to cross with low tide. If the tide's out, you can also go wandering on them and looking at the sea life and the tide pools out there. If you go south, it's a big crescent moon, really shallow crescent moon. It's almost flat, but there's a little bit of curve to it. And eventually you'll come to Beach 3, and then so on and so forth. And you get to Beach 2, and then Claylock camp, and then the Claylock beaches along the campground and along the bluff. And then further south is South Beach, and then you're off the coast. So this book section is going to be posted for both because they're in the same spot, and there's no real trail guide in any book form. So, short walk down from the trailhead, from the parking lot, and this is the view that greets you. This is Ruby Beach. Lots and lots of photography has been taken of this beach, probably more than Rialto if you ignore a hole in the wall. Usually if you see or get a postcard from the Olympic coast that's inside the national park, is probably of these rocks over here on Ruby Beach. They're just that photogenic. Of course, all these 10-15 foot tall bushes on either side of the trail are all dormant salmon berries, which is, they're kind of like raspberries, but they change color. They go from like a pale yellow when they're really not ripe and really nasty, to like a golden brown almost when they're almost ripe and they're pretty tart like a cranberry, and then when they turn like a really dark blood red in fall, they're actually pretty tasty and they're really juicy.
I like them.
Huh. No one else has gone through that trail. There used to be a trail here when Jared and I were kids, and we go wander through and go way up the creek and bounce along the driftwood, but nobody else has been dumb like us for years, so that trail's disappeared. The other cool part about Ruby Beach, besides all the rocks you can climb on over there and over there when the tides are low enough, is usually you can spot sea otters playing in the creek over here, which is also pretty exciting.
seen sea otters, I've seen seals, I've seen bald eagles out on this beach. And it really is a toss-up between this and Rialto, which one's more fun. If you catch it when the tides are really far away out, Rialto is great because you can walk through a hole in the wall and keep going for miles and miles and miles. But when the tides are just moderate like they are today, this one usually is more entertainment for the value. Plus it's only like 15 minutes away from Claylock, whereas Rialto you gotta drive an hour. Turn that off. Boy. I, of course, am gonna make a beeline to cross through the creek water and try and get over to the island over there. Don't know if Serena will join me or not. Oh yeah, tide's good and out, and it's going out for like another hour. Serena's directing me for a picture. This good? Now I will pose.
Come back a little bit and then pretend like you're walking.
Never mind, I'm going backwards. Struggle photographer. Photographer while she's photographing.
No.
Now I go walk. She's supposed to take a picture. Down to Driftwood. And that island in the lighthouse, you can see there is Destruction Island with the lighthouse. All the ships go pretty much around that island and stay out to that distance. It's also where you get your tide charts from. So in a moment or two when I look up what the tides are going to be, it'll be coming from there. I'll probably stop taking video after I go past a couple of these rocks. See if I can get Munchkin across the creek with me. You should be able to. It runs deep, but I don't think quite that deep. Come on, Struggle Snuggle. Oh, those rocks will be exposed. I can go play on them. My childhood. Unlike Ellen Creek at Rialto, this creek doesn't appear to have changed its course much in the tide flats. Holes in rock. 2 of them. Pretty, huh? Let's see if we can stick our nose up through one of them. Eeny, meeny, miny, that one. Boop. Poke my nose through the hole.
Yeah.
You ready to cross the creek? What you got your booties on for?
I don't think I'm gonna do that.
Come on. I'm gonna look at the tide chart.
Huh?
I'm gonna look up the tide chart, see.
Are you recording still?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, load. I've got Cerveza out here. Meanwhile, pretty look up and down the beach back towards Claylock. Rocks, rocks, Destruction Island, more rocks. Supposed to have good service out here. Ooh, I have to cross the creek now. There's a massive bobby over there. Really big black one. Tide chart's not loading. But I know on Thursday the low tide was at 8:45 and they've been creeping to later in the day, so the low tide should be coming up soonish. But I have to cross the creek now because there's a big bobby over there. Alright, so creek was too deep for my boots, so Can't go touch the big island like I wanted to, but I'm gonna go climb on these rocks instead. Bunchkin's just having so much fun on the beach. But if you are so inclined and you catch the tides just right, this is being a terrible week for the tides. The low tide is still like a +2 or +3. But if you are so inclined and you catch the tides just right, you can walk these beaches for miles in either direction, exploring everything. It's really nice. It's quite a good workout. Even though it's flat, walking through gravel and sand takes a lot of energy than just walking on regular quote-unquote solid flat ground. Probably going to set up a long exposure on that log there in a while. See, the tide hasn't quite got far enough out to where the water does completely get around the rocks at some point still. So if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna have to time this perfectly. But I mean, technically you can walk this beach all the way back to Clay Lock if you wanted to, some 8 or 9 miles. There's a couple of creek crossings, but the big one is Clay Lock Creek that you may or may not make it across. Which is fine though, because the campground is on this northern side of the creek. So you should be able to make it just fine. If I was gonna go, I would need to go right about now. I may or may not be making this. I'd have to go right about now. Alright, so I didn't make it onto the big rock. Made it on the little rock right next to me, and just in time because then a big wave came in and kind of stuffed me. I was going to try and get out there, but I don't think the tide's going to behave. So shortly I'm going to bail off this rock. But we can watch another couple of waves come in maybe. Once Jared and I made it all the way out to that second rock there, not the furthest one out, but this one right here. That's when tides are real good. Look at all the sea anemones. You might not be able to see them. There's a bunch down in here too. Don't see any starfish at the moment. We can go this way where there's a couple of good sea anemones. Oh, there's a couple of good little sea anemones in this little pool here. There's a couple of big ones. Look at them, look at them, look at how pretty, pretty, pretty. Look at how pretty, pretty, pretty. Here comes a wave. There's a couple of other good big ones over there. Not seeing any starfish, which is okay. Population hasn't completely rebounded yet. About 4 or 5 years ago, a disease of some sort swept through the entire northeast Pacific coast, decimating pretty much the entire starfish population, not just the regular 5 stars, but the brittle stars and the sun stars also. That was like 2016, 2017, maybe 2018. But seemed to be only a 1-year thing, so they're starting to come back, but this used to be chock full of starfish along with the sea anemones. Now I wait for a wave to behave so I can leave this island. Munchkin patiently waiting for my death. I want to go stare at the sea anemones some more, but I know the tide isn't exactly going to be low, so I gotta take my escape route chance when I can. That looks to be now. She didn't even see my dismount. I probably could have stayed out there longer. Oh well. Look at the pretty sea anemones. Oh, this long exposure is going to be nice when the tide starts coming back in. But I think we're going to keep walking that way along the beach a ways. And now for your daily dose of geology. So fast forward for the next minute or two. I'm going to be talking about rocks. So you got this nice cliff being formed here. And up above you can see alternate layer beds of sand, silt, and gravels. That's probably old ocean deposits. Then you got this bedrock down in here, which we're gonna try and get a closer look and figure out what it is. It appears to be sedimentary and basal. Yeah, it looks like it's that looks like it's all lithified sand or silt grain, so it's a loosely lithified sandstone or siltstone, which means it could very well be old glacial deposits from the last ice age. But that is either river deposits or tidal deposits. Now wait, Brandon, you ask, how is that possible if the ocean is way down there and those deposits are way up there? Well, there's this thing called uplift for the next big earthquake. We get a fat 9.0 earthquake about every 300 years or so. And when the earthquake happens, all this along the coast goes drop. And it can drop that far or more. So that could be tidal deposits from after the last earthquake, when the cliff started rising up again. Or that could be old river deposits from pre-earthquake when rivers went in a different direction, or who knows. Could also be more glacial deposits, because that's not a regular size cobble there. That's a big rock. There's a bunch of big rocks sitting in there. But pretty sure basal cliff forming layer is some sort of old glacial deposit that's been lithified enough to be able to build cliffs. And of course in winter you got all the water coming drippy, making pretty looks. But yeah, high tide is going to be bouncing up against here. Those really good high tides like it's going to happen later in the day. Alright, that's your geology moment. And would you look at that? Sunshine has come out and graced us. Who says the Pacific Northwest never gets any good weather in winter?
So, like the whole rainforest video, I was planning on making it only being one video, and instead split up in two videos for each of the trails. I'm going to do that for today's also. Ruby Beach and Beach 4 was originally going to be one video, but I ended up taking a lot of video, so I'm going to split them up into two, Ruby Beach and then Beach 4. So this is the outro for Ruby Beach. It's the big one. It's the second more well-known one, I guess. And then there's the sandy beaches at Kalilok, and then all the other beaches are kind of less well-known. But Ruby Beach is pretty exciting. I like wandering on it. Not as much as Rialto, but Ruby Beach is a really cool place to go hang out. Thank you for joining us, and then the next day will be Beach 4? Yeah, Beach 4.